and a great story. But I appreciate being with everybody today. I also want to wish everybody a happy, if that's the appropriate term, Global Entrepreneurship Week. I don't know if this conference was aligned with that movement, but there are events going on all around the world this week as a part of Global Entrepreneurship Week. So I thought I would recognize that. Let me see if I can't get my presentation up here. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the International Economic Development Council, not as a sales piece, but what we're doing around economic development. And Larry, can you see my presentation fine?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, great. So as Larry said, you know, I've been at this game of economic development for a great number of years, but I'm a relative newcomer to this world of economic development. Our organization is a merger of a couple organizations. We changed names in 2001. We merged an organization called the American Economic Development with the Council for Urban Economic Development. Next year, we will be celebrating 95 years of trying to understand this game of economic development and building a practitioner organization to support people in this space. I won't go through our history, but there's lots of information at our website, which is iedconline.org for anybody that's interested. One of the things that I find is helpful when I'm trying to explain who we are, first and foremost, we're a membership association. We're not a government entity. We serve our members who are city, county, state, chamber of commerce, public-private partnership organization members, and they pay most of the freight of maintaining a staff and offices. They do that through dues, attending conferences, paying for training programs and books. I find when I meet with international delegations that a number of places don't have membership organizations in quite the same way we do in the States, but we are owned by our members. We're a not-for-profit or an NGO, as many of you would refer to your not-for-profits in your countries. Our mission is to provide leadership and excellence, to set high standards for the practice of economic development. And we do that largely by training. You know, it's probably late in this program to define economic development, but the definition that we use, it's the creation, retention, expansion of jobs, development of tax base, and the enhancement of wealth is our nomenclature, or the definition that we provide to economic development. We have over 5,000 members, and here are some of the groups that we serve in that membership. Our priorities are leadership development, assisting economic development leaders with economic transformation, supporting economic opportunity in their communities, and frankly, helping to grow talent in this field of economic development. As an association, and I'm sure many of you belong to an association of one type or another, I like to say that economic development associations are all the same. They do conferences, training programs, they follow legislation. The difference is the content by which they're working, and in our case, we are a specialist in economic development. The thing that's been odd for me to understand for a long period of time, and maybe I just don't take ourselves as seriously as I should, is we're the world's largest economic development membership group. I've said many times, if China decided to set one up, they would eclipse us in a heartbeat. But with 5,000 members and a staff of 30, I mean, you clearly would have government entities that would be larger working on economic development. But to support the professional, there is no one larger than us. The OECD is a multi-government entity that one could say they might fall into our category, but I don't think that's what exactly they're set up to do. So we're going to claim that, and we deal with many of the organizations, WIPA, URATA in Australia, the AED, New Zealand, Canada. We watch many of these economic development organizations. What Larry specifically asked me to do is to a certain degree talk about economic development training. How do we focus on the activities around economic developers? And we have one current certification and a new one that we're going to be starting in 2021 and 2022. And our first one is what we call a Certified Economic Development Developer, or CECD. And what I've done here with the next couple of slides is indicate what we do to support the training of economic developers. We have a lot of training courses, and we have a number of training providers. And mostly in North America. In fact, we've worked with folks in South Africa, Australia, one organization in Asia, and one former Soviet satellite country to develop training programs outside of the United States. But most of our training is here in the States. To become a certified economic developer, frankly, you have to have 4 years of professional experience. You have to take a number of training programs, and then you have to sit down and pass a 2-day test. That test would include both short answer, multiple choice, essay, and once you're through those 3 parts, you stand for a 1-hour interview of your peers to make sure that the group of graders believe that you really have a good sense of what economic development is about. To achieve this certification, the course requirements are an introduction to economic development, or a basic economic development course. And there are about 25 of these courses spread around the United States. We're reopening a course with the CETIS University in Mexicali, Mexico. There are a number of these courses in Canada. And then we don't have any current MOUs with organizations other than South Africa to achieve that education. Other course requirements are the 3 that you can see, and then you have to take a couple elective courses. People with a master's degree in a related field get to replace one of the courses. But we work pretty hard at maintaining that. In fact, we are updating all of our training manuals as we speak. You see the logo that we used. We also accredit economic development organizations, and that is not looking at the individual, but rather looking at the institution that houses economic developers. And we currently have about 70 of those organizations. I realized I had just pulled up the wrong slideshow. I had 2 slides on our new entrepreneurship certification that we are rolling out. there is a foundation in Kansas City called the Kauffman Foundation, and they focus all of their work on entrepreneurship. And over the last 3 years, we've been working with the Kauffman Foundation, and we are in the process of providing some new content, some new courses. And we don't have a name for our new certification. We will have by summer. And we will start putting people through a similar process, not exactly the same as we do with the CFDs. And these people who sit for this certification will be specifically focused on supporting entrepreneurs. With our other certification, you're more of a generalist in economic development. This one, you will be, the practice around that will be specific to supporting entrepreneurs. And we hope to train a number of people and certify a greater number of people. There will probably be some type of grandfathering in or grandmothering in of people into our certification when we first roll it out. In addition, IEDC does a number of other things. We have a research arm. We call it our Economic Development Research Partners. And the way we fund our research is we have, if everybody is aware of the story of Robin Hood, Robin Hood went through Sherwood Forest, and he stole from the rich and he gave to the poor. Well, some of our wealthier or larger budget economic development organizations pay into a fund, and they actually help fund our research. And we put out 2 to 4 reports a year, and then we share it with the full economic development community. And we also use it as part of our support for policy development, particularly with the US Congress. But many of our policy documents have helped influence legislation and economic development policy in other countries as well. IEDC also is very active in helping communities after disasters. Now, the work has mostly been focused on the US. We've also done some work in Canada, and we've been funded by the US Department of Commerce. And frankly, as many of you know, we've been inundated with disasters over the last several years. We started this program after Hurricane Katrina hit the Gulf Coast and hit Mississippi, Louisiana, and Alabama. And we've been working ever since. And for those of you who are not in the States, and even those of you who are, there is a very robust website called restoreyoureconomy.org. If you should ever deal with even the closing of a major facility, dealing with a hurricane, wildfire, earthquake, tornadoes, this will give you many of the basic steps in terms of what you need to do to think about how to restore your economy, thus the name of the website. IEDC is always active, but right now we are spending a great deal of time dealing with the pandemic and the after effects of that. We have held a couple dozen webinars for anybody who wanted to show up. Our members are dealing with high unemployment, collapsing industries in certain sectors. And it was said yesterday that the sectors that are having some of the greater problems are hospitality, tourism. Our restaurant sector is really struggling in a number of places. Convention centers, convention hotels are if they're even open, are giving away their rooms at this particular point. Our members are also focused on dealing with broken supply chains, particularly, it's been particularly noticeable in the healthcare industry. I've noted many times that if China had 2 or 3 times the impacts of the coronavirus or COVID-19, we wouldn't have had any additional PPP. We wouldn't have been able to put our hands on any additional ventilators. And, we had given up those products and the supply chain had moved them offshore. And frankly, we're still short. And as many of you know, we've got an explosion coronavirus going on across the states right now. And I think we're going to be struggling on PPE again. And we need to make more of it here, or have a supply chain that makes more sense and that cannot be used against us. We have had thousands upon thousands of small businesses have gone under, and we particularly are struggling with minority small businesses. They're going under at a rate much higher than Anglo-owned businesses in the States. And as we recover, we're going to have to figure out how we support minority entrepreneurs and figure out new ways of helping some of those businesses get restarted or get those entrepreneurs into new businesses. And we knew we had a digital divide where there were haves and have-nots around the use of the internet, but this working from home and school closings has shown us just how bad off we were in getting the digital economy or the final mile to many people's homes. And that has been a real struggle for many families and for many communities. So, kind of in conclusion, IEDC is supporting our members in very challenging times, and we're focusing on helping our economic developers deal with this. We're doing practical research for our members on many of the key issues, the 2 of which I just mentioned, racial equity and entrepreneurship. We are always trying to help our members think about what are our emerging threats in the same way that all of us probably go through a SWOT analysis from time to time. We're thinking about new products and services, supporting new knowledge and engaging in partnerships to share that value. Larry, I don't know if we have any time for any questions, but if there are, I'd be happy to handle them, or just thank you all for inviting me today. So back to you, Larry.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Jeff. I learned more listening to you now than I have in all the conversations we've had over a coffee or over a beer in Washington, D.C. So thank you for that. And I think it's good for the audience to learn about the way